I've been watching, and while most Americans have had their heads stuck in the sand fighting wars, China has emerged to be a rival as large as the U.S., even surpassing the U.S. in many dimensions. And the American policy that was meant to deal with this, engage and hedge, basically just went with the flow.
如果按照货币的实际购买力来计算中国经济，根据国际货币基金组织的报告，中国的经济总量在2014年就已经超过了美国。作为全球化的最大受益者之一，中国却走着一条与美国模式截然不同的道路。在中美关系的新纪元中，这份不同一如既往地孕育着机遇，但同时也意味着更多的挑战。
We're now in a period in which the whole relationship between the U.S. and China in the economic realm is going to have to be reconceived. So basically, Washington has concluded that the previous terms failed. So we're now in a period, really crucial period, I think, where over the next year or two, we're going to come to some new picture of how China and the U.S. can relate to each other economically and other areas. And Xi Jinping calls that, he calls for a new form of great power relations. And when I was in Beijing just before Christmas, I got a chance to talk directly with everybody in the government below Xi Jinping. And as one of them said to me, he said, why do you think the boss talks about a new form of great power relations? He says, because he knows the old form is a Thucydidean and dynamic and ends in a war. So we're looking for some ideas about a new form. So I think this is a good opportunity for people to scratch their head and exercise some imagination.
事实上，中美两国之间的经济关系早已密不可分。从早年间广为人知的衬衫换飞机，转向了要素市场领域扩展，包括资本、技术和人才等更深层次的合作。艾里森希望中美双方领导人可以保持开放的态度，创造性的去共同寻找建立新型大国关系的答案。
So the idea that there might be some initiative China could take under these circumstances that would be so obviously beneficial to both China and the U.S. that it would remind people of why we're so much better off if we're doing things together as opposed to rivaling each other with respect to. One might be in the medical arena. So I think clinical genomics now offers the opportunity for making huge advances in dealing with some of the most deadly diseases, like cancer. And the Chinese have the capacity to run large controlled experiments because their population, in the U.S., the combination of laws that keep all medical records private, plus a terrible record-keeping system, plus the pharmas, there's a whole set of reasons why this doesn't happen in the American context. In terms of being able to work on experiments, the Chinese have a capacity. So let's see if we can do something like this. That would be a small example.
Yeah, and the amount of data that China can collect.
Have infinite.
It's amazing.
Infinite, yeah.
But cooperation, meaning like both sides have to be able to be willing to open up data and share data. That would be a big challenge as well.
I think, let me agree, but I think some of them are even more practical than they seem when the first. So what's happening in North Korea now is a good example where at Mar-a-Lago, when Trump first met Xi in April of last year, he said to him, my number one problem is North Korea, and you can help me solve this problem. And if you do, that's going to be good for both of us. And if you don't, I'm going to solve it by myself. But now, as far as I can see, the parties are working pretty carefully together. If the only way I can solve a problem that I said was my number one problem is if you help me, and if you help me and we solve this problem, well, that's a pretty good place to say maybe we can do that again. Yeah.
So turning shared interests into shared prosperity and tackling a lot of the world problems
shared
together.
Problem solving. The other thing, I think the Chinese, many Americans are rightfully proud that they helped enable what's the greatest anti-poverty program in history. The Chinese have raised 600-700 million people from abject poverty to lives that are at least have some dignity. Now, who can't be excited by that? I mean, everybody should be excited. This is in human history, this is an amazing thing. And it happened mainly because Chinese worked very hard and mainly because Chinese government made right choices. But it was also enabled in significant ways by American assistance in providing what's been the order, both security and economic, for the region, which allowed and enabled the other miracles that occurred in Hong Kong, in Japan, in South Korea. So I would say that's another one where, in principle, one should say, wait a minute, this was, wasn't just you succeeded, or wasn't just I did something. Together we accomplished something that we wouldn't have accomplished